Like if it were just a Will Howard thing, that that you have some options there. Hopefully his growth comes around. Like you can get him better. You do have a bye week next week. Um, but it's kind of systemic with the offense. They just the infrastructure of the offense has a lot of holes. I mean, we heard from Connor Riley this week say the offensive line's progress hasn't been where he wants it to be. Um, Wide receiver clearly has just not been good. It's been below average at the Big 12 level the entire year so far this year. And then it comes down to, hey, can you shut down Deuce Vaughn? And if you can shut down Deuce Vaughn, you're going to shut down this offense. That cause will be aided even more by Briley Moore being out, which I don't think that he plays this weekend. I didn't feel like that was a really confident, questionable answer from Courtney Messingham on him. Game time decision, I guess, not questionable. So I do think that's the problem, is that there's so many things that have to come together for the offense to really make some improvement.
Yeah, I think there's a chance Briley plays, but again, you're right. When somebody is going to play, the staff typically comes out and says, yes, he is playing. You can count on it. When they say anything short of that, normally they're not going to play. So you're right. I wouldn't bet on him playing, but we'll see. The hard thing just for the offense, from my perspective, especially if you go back and watch what happened on film in that last game, like that first series, they decided to come out and be really aggressive, throw the ball on their first 3 plays with Will Howard, which is fine. West Virginia has the best run defense in the league. I don't question that. But the second play of the game, they dial up a pass, and the guy Will Howard is throwing to is blocking on the perimeter, like thinking this is going to be a run play. Like that, oh, that's not good. Then the next play, Malik Knowles runs the wrong route, and so the guy that Will Howard's throwing to, I believe it was Phillip Brooks, is triple covered just because Malik drags his defender into the picture when he's supposed to be going the other way. I mean, that when you got a freshman quarterback, everybody else has got to be playing, at least be on the same page, playing at the top of their game. And last week it was the opposite. The same deal when, his 2 other interceptions to Seth Porter. I'm not sure that Porter ran the right route there. It's possible Howard just threw a bad pass, not being there. I don't know. But then the third one was just everybody screwed it up. If Taylor doesn't bobble that ball, it's not a pick 6. If
right.
Brooks makes a block, it's not a pick 6. You can say if Howard doesn't throw the ball, it's not a pick 6 either, but he wasn't getting a lot of help. So it wasn't just that you had a freshman quarterback. The receivers he's trying to get the ball to weren't playing at the top of their game either. So we're going to have to see some improvement.
Yeah, I think the only thing out of that game I can take and say, people ask where the answer's coming from, which I know somebody did ask in your blog this week. Malik Knowles has to be the overwhelming, most obvious answer in that. If there are going to be answers that come, Malik would be the top of the list. It was last year we were talking every single week about, is he going to be able to play or not, because his health was so impactful to what was actually happening out there on the field. Outside of that, maybe Sammy Wheeler. I'm trying to remember who else you had on your list there.
Yeah, Wheeler would be a nice wild card if he could put something together here. He's a good pass catcher. He's not Briley Moore, but he can catch the ball. I would take the risk, even if he's not a great run blocker, and put him out there and put him in some situations where he can catch the ball. But yeah, really, the thing that could help them out the most is if Knowles and Taylor all of a sudden start playing like number 1 receivers at the same time. That would really open things up. Because otherwise, there's not a whole lot of options. Harry Trotter's fine, but he's not going to run for 150 yards. Deion Mosey can maybe get you a player or 2 here or there, but same deal. I'm not sure where the next offensive spark comes from if it's not one of those guys.
Well, Kellis, it has to be Jacardier Wright, right?
You're right with right. Stranger things have happened, but I'm just kind of sick of hearing questions about that guy. I thought he was going to be better than he's played this season. I think we all did. But really, people say, why are they playing Trotter instead of him? Trotter's averaging 3 yards a carry, not great. When Jacardier Wright's been in there, he's averaged 2.8 yards a carry, which is even worse. So, what are we talking about here? At least Harry brings some leadership and some blocking to the table. I don't think there's a big mystery as to why, the guy that probably the number 5 or 6 running back on the team, redshirt freshman, why he's not playing. I don't think there's a big mystery there. I think he's just still trying to develop. We all maybe jumped the gun a little bit thinking he was. be this great player this season.
Yeah, I was actually glad and surprised. Well, I was glad that you went and looked at his actual numbers, and surprised that it was as low as it was this year. But I guess that makes sense. I mean, I don't remember a particular play this year where he really like popped like he did last year in for instance, the Iowa State game. And yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I feel like all of us have tried to kind of calmly and casually lead you to like lead a horse to water or whatever the old saying is, like lead everybody to the answer here as to why that's happening. And I hope that message is starting to get across. Because look, I mean, he's a second year player in the program. We're certainly not trying to bury the kid, but there seems to be a long way to go.
Yeah, he could still be great. When he did play that one game against Iowa State last year, he looked great. He legitimately looked very good in that game. But there were some special circumstances there. It was horrible weather. All they could do was run. That was his only task in that game. Here, take the ball, try to pick up yards. He didn't have to block. He didn't have to worry about anything else. This year, when it's nice weather and they're trying to do all these other things, that's not the case. They rather rely on guys who know the whole system and are more complete players. And eventually, I think he'll get there and be a productive player. But right now, he's just not there yet. If we're going to look for a weapon, a spark on this team, I think I'd look elsewhere right now.
Yeah, well, and Brian Anderson, the running backs coach, has told us basically right now everybody aside from like Trotter and Deuce, they have a package. They have a certain subset of plays that they are going to be used in because they can give them that, have them learn it up, be up to speed on it, and then if it comes up in the game, they'll go run it. If it doesn't, they don't. And I think that's probably the answer. Like there were some questions about Keon Mosey after the game as well. Like why didn't we see Keon Mosey at West Virginia? I think that there's your answer. Like they had a specific package in for him. It didn't come up in the game. And so therefore he doesn't play. Now you can agree or disagree, I suppose, with like that strategy. But these guys like to try and utilize somebody for their particular strengths. And they want to do this in like a, running back by committee sort of approach. That actually makes sense. Like, hey, get this guy up to speed, learn this really well. Because again, Keon Mosey, another very young player. He probably doesn't know the whole playbook. So just make sure that he knows whatever 5-6 plays you have in for him that best utilize his skills. Make sure he knows that well, and then you can go out there and run that stuff. But he's not ready, I don't think, at this point in time to take on everything that Deuce is. That's the other problem. Like people probably look at Deuce and see what he's been able to do and be like, well, why can't everybody do that? Well, Deuce Vaughn's dad was a coach growing up, and he clearly has taken in so much of this by osmosis and was like learning K-State's fall camp install from last year before he actually got to campus here this year. Like Deuce is on just a totally another level from everybody else.
Yeah, he's a freak when it comes to the mental side of things. His dad is a scout for the NFL Cowboys. When we hear him talk, he's more mature. He seems more knowledgeable about defenses than like guys who've been watching the game for 50 years. So I wouldn't expect every freshman to come in and do that. I guess the interesting thing about all this is, people have kind of wondered, well, last year they had every game they really went out of their way to play 3 running backs, maybe even 4 running backs. They rotated them in and out quite a bit. Well, the difference is last year they had 2 graduate transfer seniors as the top 2 guys in James Gilbert and Jordan Brown, who knew what they were doing. They were like 25. It's going to be easier for them to come in and learn the system than it is for a guy fresh out of high school. And then the other guy was Harry Trotter, who'd been in the system for a year. He played at Louisville. He's been around. He knows what he's doing. And then when we did see a 4th guy, it was Tyler Burns. So those are four veteran guys who they liked to get in there and play. And then what are they doing this year? They're basically playing the veteran Harry Trotter and then the mental freak Deuce Vaughn. And other than that, they don't want to play anybody else really because they're not totally up to speed. So I mean, I would love it if they could play 4 running backs. I think we all would, but I don't think there's like this grand conspiracy theory that some people are making it out to be as to why some of these guys aren't playing.
Yeah, like you're fair or free to disagree with the coaching staff's opinion on these things, but it's not the climate that we were all in with Bill Snyder, where I think like everybody was trained to assume that players who were more talented and probably more ready than what the coaching staff thought were still sitting behind less athletic players who had been around longer and were more of the coach's favorite, right? I don't think this is the same kind of situation. I think this coaching staff, by playing, they played 33 freshmen last year. Like they clearly have shown a willingness to do this. I don't think it's trying to hold them back just for holding them back's sake.
Agreed. And yeah, they're still playing a lot of guys. I mean, it's pretty normal for them to have 65, 70 players in games. So if you're wondering why why a certain player isn't in that mix, the answer is probably simple enough. He's just not playing as good as the other guys. I mean, sometimes it's not this huge mystery.